Guild Wars, a truly legendary online multiplayer RPG releasing in 2005 by ArenaNet, a company founded by former senior developers of Blizzard Entertainment. Looking to shake up the MMO landscape, Guild Wars was created with a mind to go against the grain during its development, with an experience that felt truly unique. And the results may surprise you, as they did that alright, since the franchise would go on to take its place among the most beloved and highly praised online RPG experiences even to this very day. It's high time we take a look back at where it all began, and dive into what made this title such a standout experience, as well as what it has to offer players today, exploring its lands, taking on its challenges, and meeting its inhabitants.
Okay. Hello, child. Oh, God. She's cursed.
My name's MitchManix, and this is the iconic Guild Wars. Before we begin, I would like to thank the sponsor of this video, HelloFresh. Whether it's a marathon series of attempts to obtain that perfect item, or failing epically while trying to look cool, the mightiest buffs you can give yourself come from the greatest of meals. And HelloFresh has got you covered, with quick, convenient recipes delivered right to you. Just choose your recipes and select a delivery date, and HelloFresh handles the meal planning and the shopping, so all you have to do is open your box of pre-ordered ingredients and get cooking. Packed with fresh ingredients, everything arrives pre-portioned right to your doorstep for less hassle and more. Oh, and are you still paying for your breakfast?
That is beyond ludicrous.
Well, join HelloFresh and you'll get free breakfast for life while your subscription is active. We're talking one delicious breakfast item packed into your big green HelloFresh box forever. Boom. Breakfast owned. In my face, forever. Check the link in the description or use my code POGMITCHFREE to get free breakfast for life. One breakfast item per box while subscription is active, to level up your food game with HelloFresh. And once again, a massive thank you for them for sponsoring today's video. As always, our journey begins at the character creator, where Guild Wars leaves a lot to be desired in regards to its options for crafting your chosen hero, with only human races available and only a handful of faces and hairstyles to choose from, truly showing the game's age, as well as making life incredibly difficult for a certain idiot who is known for making silly characters in his videos, but not without some highlights, such as Catching Flies Karen, Nothing But Neck, and the ghost of Woody Harrelson. But we need a hero for this journey, so must of course call upon the one and only Macaulay Culkin, a ranger that despite his charge is a handsome Robin Hood type, has a face like a smacked arse at all times, quite possibly due to not having an option to play as an Azura in this game, at least not for now. Guild Wars offers players 3 alternative campaigns to begin with, covering the base game and 2 of the game's standalone expansions, with additional classes available depending on which campaign you choose, for a total of 10 classes. But as for our journey, we will be experiencing a little bit of all 3, beginning with the base game and the Prophecies campaign. Jumping into the game's world, we are treated with an introductory cutscene setting the scene of King Adelburn overlooking the ongoing attack by the mighty Char, and calling for the land's strongest to help in the war effort, which as someone who's played through nearly all of the story in the second game was cool to see. Taking our first steps, what stands out first is the game's dual mode of movement, with both WASD and click to move available for travel, an inclusion that was initially confusing, but will make much more sense later on. Grabbing our first quests and wandering into the town, it looks like Culkin has already got something to smile about after getting to meet some of the land's other roaming players, with a number of beautiful ladies crowding around this initial town, as well as Mr. Premium, who at least to me looks like the physical embodiment of a cash shop casualty. Venturing out from the first settlement of Ascalon City, we pick up some starter quests and begin working through the levels. Guild Wars 1 early on sporting some great looking visuals considering the age of some of these areas, and further enhanced by the soundtrack by Jeremy Soule, that you may or may not know I'm a little bit of a fan of. While working through a number of kill and fetch quests, the environments are not the only things adding character, as we get to meet a number of quirky and sometimes confusing NPCs inhabiting the land, such as a guard who immediately asks us if we've ever considered becoming a nun, which is confusing for a number of reasons, and a child named Gwen, who gallivants around being tied to a number of collection tasks, and is all too grateful for our endeavors, informing us that she now plans to stalk us on our travels. Well, I'm flattered, but I don't Wait a minute, what the hell is that?
Seat right in that chair. Seat over in that chair. Seat right over there.
Advancing further, we find that abilities in Guild Wars are not provided automatically when leveling, but instead granted by the game's NPCs after completing quests, and later by purchasing them from skills vendors, in addition to our main class of Ranger, Guild Wars also gives its players a chance to pick an additional class, to unlock a second set of abilities to mix and match when putting together a build, a task that quickly becomes a head-scratcher, given that the game only has 8 usable skill slots, and with these also including non-combat abilities, as Mac finds out when tracking down the must-have partner in crime for any hunter-ranger type, that of course being an animal companion, by the way here of a cheeky-looking big cat, to add to his roster, a roster that was about to expand much further, with us finishing up the Starter Zone quests, and speaking with Sir Tidus to head out of Ascalon City and begin the real adventure, to which we are given a full party of NPCs to join us on our travels, with a member for each group role. Call me paranoid, but I have a feeling that you are going to be a peculiar nuisance. The game's introduction concluding with the Char putting a stop to Gwen's gallivanting, and in fact most of the town's living inhabitants, as we rejoin our band of heroes 2 years later to get into the core leveling experience. Working through the main plotline and side quests of the Prophecies campaign, picking up new skills and orders from our sometimes oddly cross-eyed looking Prince Rurik, what is clear from the get-go is that players should be prepared when diving into Guild Wars, as like the developers set out to do, the playstyle of the game takes a different direction, deviating from other massively multiplayer games of the time, as well as the game's sequel. Combat, as we have seen, is played out with a full team of NPCs, making up a full dungeon group of sorts, and this composition also extends out to the enemy NPCs, with groups of enemies frequently including ranged and melee units, as well as magic users casting buffs and healing spells. This group dynamic leads to combat engagements even in the early levels, being far more than the mindless endeavor early leveling can be in a lot of other titles, with consideration of skills being a key factor, as well as using buffs and interrupts to shut down packs of roaming enemies. Quests while leveling consists both of main plotline as well as a number of side quests available from friendly settlements with haunted storage, with these areas being a chance to catch a breath from the brutal combat encounters out in the open world, as well as buy and sell gear and get a chance to interact with other players. Other players including one that I can't help but recognize, named Finnish Berserker, who donning a crazy mask and exposed midriff, proudly stands upon a small hill boogieing down in one of the early settlements, a player that honestly has unprecedented amounts of dedication, considering that back in November of 2022, when doing a live stream first taking a look at the game, this very same person was here doing this exact same thing. And if any of you Guild Wars veterans has any more information, I'd be more than happy to know about that in the comments, because this one is a bit of a mystery. But either way, God bless you, Finnish Berserker. The quests in Guild Wars do have a much grander feeling to them as opposed to a lot of the games of the time, such as World of Warcraft or RuneScape, mostly due to the world building and the benefits of putting the player in their own instance when traveling across the world, allowing for missions such as full-scale assaults and battles, including putting together and using siege equipment that Sulkin is apparently very excited about, and in later adventures introducing and being able to recruit a whole range of characters throughout the game's stories. The instance missions, especially the ones at the start of the Prophecies campaign, on occasion did start to get a little tedious, especially when coupled with the fact that if the player party is defeated during one of these, then they will be sent back to the beginning of the entire mission, which for me a couple of times led to me losing up to an hour of progress. But overall, it was great to see the large-scale missions filled with characters, not only being a thing provided by Guild Wars 2, but kicked off in this earlier release, even if some of the cutscenes are showing their age a little. Finally reaching the settlement of Lion's Arch, it was time to jump into some of the game's expansions to power on to max level, and upgrade our party as much as possible along the way. First up was Nightfall, one of the standalone expansions for the game, following the desert-dwelling Sunspear clan. A great change of scenery, and a perfect place to upgrade our party from mere henchmen to heroes. Heroes, unlike the previous party members, can be leveled, geared, and have their skills customized for a far more permanent companion-feeling experience, as well as adding even more strategy to player builds. Heroes can be obtained by progressing through the game's various questlines and campaigns, which is exactly what we do, while getting a look and seeing that the epic missions and quests only continue through the game's expansions, and after a while moving over to the next one, Eye of the North, that even includes some of Guild Wars' other races, such as Norns and Azure. Oh, good lord, what the buggery bollocks is that? Well, safe to say that Guild Wars 2 toned down the nightmare fuel when it comes to the Azures, to say the least. With now a team of heroes at his side, Sulkin marched on, uncovering a truly impressive sight when discovering the Hall of Monuments, a place in the game where the player can showcase their achievements as they progress through the content, as well as even unlocking extras that can be used by characters in Guild Wars 2, which is a great touch. Next on the hit list was to join a guild and dive into some of Guild Wars' group content, and with the help of a couple of legendary players, we got a chance to experience some of the game's dungeons, which come in group and solo flavors. Just as challenging, for me at least, as the open world exploration, and providing some tasty rewards upon completion. The game's dungeons become particularly popular when reaching Guild Wars' endgame, with hard modes available for refined teams to take on together. The game's dungeons do again show the game's age, but at the same time provide a nice change of pace from the campaign missions and quests. With the game's max level of 20 reached, it was time to seek out some gear and ability upgrades. Guild Wars, from my experience at least, does feel a little light when it comes to the gear side of things, with only really a few options for alternative armor pieces, and overall effectiveness coming more down to skill choice and composition over build-defining armor options. For example, elite skills are available to track down and obtain using quite a cool mechanic of extracting them from strong enemies found out in the open world using a sigil to add their elite skill to your, and by extension, your NPC hero's arsenal. With some better gear and elite skills in hand, Macaulay Culkin now looked to get a sample of some player versus player action, while hopefully avoiding any players named Michael Saxon, travelling to a whole set of islands dedicated to PvP, queuing up and diving straight into both solo and team-based PvP matches, where of course old Culkin got absolutely demolished. But it was good to see the PvP modes not only populated but so easily accessible for those looking to jump in, with the game even allowing for players to roll PvP-only characters that have all the abilities unlocked to allow for instant creation of that desired PvP build. The PvP, although far from the epic full-scale battles they would become in the second Guild Wars title, does give that feeling of being quite deep and rewarding considering how many skills and options are available to player builds, and a good additional feature to keep the endgame players busy, along with title hunting and hard mode dungeon running. After reaching max level, trying out a number of the game's story campaigns, joining a guild, trying to contemplate the cranium size of some of the Norn soldiers, given how small some of their helmets are, delving dungeons, and getting my arse absolutely handed to me in the game's PvP. For me now it's clear why so many still populate this nearly 20-year-old online game, despite so many newer games providing overall much more well-rounded experiences, and it's twofold. First, just like the game's second entry, the game's community is exceptional. Nearly everyone I met in my adventures was happy to help, passionate about the game and keen to share their knowledge, jumping into missions while talking about the game's lore, or discussing builds and events in the guild chat. The game just felt like a great place to be if you're looking to connect with other like-minded RPG fans. Second, due to the developer's mission to not just create another typical feeling MMO, there isn't another game, at least that I've found, that feels quite like Guild Wars, making also the game itself extraordinary. For better or worse, Guild Wars has a very unique feeling to it, and when coupled with the environments and atmosphere that ArenaNet went on to be so masterful at crafting, it's obvious why this game continues to keep a healthy player base for its age. The party-based gameplay and the heavy use of instances, as previously mentioned, allows for some much grander feeling moments, but ultimately I don't feel this for me, as someone who prefers to be in control of one poor bastard face-planting his way around, let alone a whole squad. But it's really cool to see that even though the party members are comprised of NPCs, that players can group up pretty much from the get-go to take on the quests and dungeon content together. The game's challenge is a breath of fresh air, and it was great planning out how to take on engagements and come out on top, rather than just relying on spamming abilities to win. What is incredibly respectable, and a little sad to think about, is the development team's desire to truly create something that stands out from the crowd, rather than just following tried and true mainstays. A mindset that's becoming increasingly rare nowadays, with how entrenched a lot of the online RPG features have become, especially now with the rise of the live service and all the monetization that goes with it. For a 2005 title, Guild Wars is a great achievement, for the experiences it provides its players, its desire to be different, and of course its place in setting up its follow-up Guild Wars 2, that even today sits as one of the greatest online RPG experiences around. Thank you so much for watching. Have you played Guild Wars? Or any other interesting or bonkers MMOs or RPGs? As always, I'm keen to get your thoughts down in the comments. Please drop the video a like if you enjoyed it. And if you're a fan of RPGs, MMOs, or hey, just looking for a laugh or two, you are in the right place. So don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss an upload. I want to give a massive shout out to the channel supporters who help in keeping the content coming, and I'm running out of breath. God damn it. They're just so beautiful. If you're interested in getting access to all sorts of perks, including bloopers, behind the scenes, full-blown exclusive videos, as well as of course having your name featured at the end of every video, the link to the channel Patreon is down in the description, along with the channel Discord, which is available to everyone. So get on in there, son. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one. Shit.
Jesus, calm down! Oh dear lord, what have I done?
Standing upon his steed like a Segne, the former being mostly due to his reputation of being slightly less than accurate with his spells for unknown reasons.